Good evening, this is Tim Johnson, and welcome to the first regular Brattleboro Selectboard meeting for the month of February, aired live here on BCTV. Among the items for discussion tonight, the Board as Liquor Commissioners will consider special event permits for both McNeil's Brewery and the Saxton's River Distillery for the annual Harris Hill Ski Jump Weekend scheduled for February the 18th and 19th. In addition, some good news from the Public Works Department and consultant Hoyle Tanner and Associates proposed change orders for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, which would provide a $62,000 plus credit to be discussed by the Select Board tonight. In addition, the FY11 financial audit will be presented by Finance Director John O'Connor. The Board will be asked to approve the 2012 State Certificate of Highway Mileage, a grant to be accepted and appropriated from the Vermont Department of Public Safety for purchasing a narrowband base mobile radio and power supply base repeater. A grant from Bradley Labs for the purposes of installing cabling and power to downtown cameras. A grant from the State Recreational Facilities to the Recreation Department for the purpose of funding in part the design and build of a skate park at the Crowell lots. In addition, a grant application for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program that will be presented by Assistant Town Manager Patrick Moreland. Adoption of a Grants Manual Addendum, appointment of a trustee for the Brooks Memorial Library, an announcement of openings on the Skateboard Committee, the Agriculture Advisory Board, and West River Park Committees. All that and more coming up. The Brattleboro Select Board is next here on BCTV. Thank you.
And good evening. I'd like to reconvene our first regularly scheduled meeting in February. We do know that the meeting has been duly warned. I would accept a motion on the minutes for January 17th.
Move to approve the minutes from January 17th.
Any additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? 5-0. I accept a motion on the special meeting for Monday, January 23rd.
Move to approve the minutes from January 23rd.
Any additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And one abstention, 4-0-1. And I'm abstaining. Yeah, that's right, you're the chair. There you go. And for our Select Board meeting on Wednesday, February 1st, I would accept a motion.
Move to approve the minutes from February 1st.
And additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed or abstentions? 4-0. Chair's remarks, only one. Just a reminder to everyone that next Tuesday is the BUHS District 6 meeting, February 14th. It'd be nice to get more than 114 people there. I don't care how anybody votes, but it would nice to see people fill up that gymnasium. So that's next Tuesday night. That's pretty much all I have. Barb, do you have anything?
Nope, not at this point, thanks.
Okay, Select Board Committee reports. No reports. Public participation. Here's an opportunity for you to speak about something that is not on our agenda. And if you would come up to the microphone, we'll give you about 2 minutes. I did ask representatives from Harris Hill to come to the meeting to talk about the ski jump, which is going to be the 18th and 19th. So, girls, if you...
Hi, Liz Richards. I'm from the Harris Hill Organizing Committee.
And for those of you that haven't seen our posters, haven't seen our ads, or listened to the radio announcements, Harris Hill weekend is February 18th and 19th. Oh, dear. Here comes a jumper. Everybody in town is aware of the one and only slogan for Brattleboro. Well, this year, Harris Hill is the one and only FIS event in the entire United States. So this is a big event for Brattleboro. It's a big event for Harris Hill. We are celebrating our 90th year of ski jumping in this town. I don't think jumper's that old, but anyway. So once again, February 18th to 19th. It's Harris Hill, it's a big deal. About mid-January, there was a half-page article in the Boston Globe about winter spectator sports in New England, and there was a nice picture of Harris Hill, and Brattleboro, Vermont was featured. For those of you that didn't catch it, it was great advertisement for us. Advanced tickets are on sale now. There are multiple local businesses that are selling them. From Galannis's Vermont Shop, Burroughs, Zephyrs. A whole list is on our website, which is, what's that? Oh, the Chamber of Commerce, yes. The Harris Hill website, harrishillskijump.com. So let me see, adults tickets are $12, children 6 through 12 are $10. The advanced ticket sales end on the Friday before the jump, which is February 17th, and after that the prices go up a few dollars. You can buy them at the gate, cash only at the gate. There's certainly no credit cards. Let's see. Oh, Brattleboro Tix. That's another avenue if you do want to use a credit card. So I guess that's about all I have to say. I did want to thank Barbara and the town for their wonderful support that they always give us, the select board, the whole town. And also, we have had unprecedented success with business sponsors and individual donations this year. We have raised a lot of money, and we're very proud of it because we need to raise a lot of money. So with that, Kate, do you have anything to add about the competition?
We currently have about 50 jumpers registered. We have 7 countries represented this year because of the FIS event. There is a requirement to hold an FIS event. You have to have a minimum of 5 countries, 5 nations. So we currently have 7 registered.
I think they hope you'll speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry.
For the television.
Oh, I can talk loud enough without a microphone. Talk to my employees, they'll tell you that. So I said we have an excess of 50 jumpers from 7 nations represented. Ukraine, Norway, US, Canada, Czechoslovakia, who might forget it, Slovenia, Germany, Austria. So big representation. So we're hoping for a busy, fun event.
Well,
3 past winner. Oh yeah, 3. Excuse me. Maybe the cow should.
The cow
the cow
Let the cow-
Talking cow.
We have 3 past winners that all have legs on the trophy that are going to be competing in this year's tournament. So we're anticipating a very exciting event. Cow, do you have anything you want to say?
No, it's going to be a really fun event with the cow and all the, I can't. There's going to be the jumper, the ski jumping cow will be there entertaining all the kids. And we've got lots of food that's going to be there. It's really sort of like a little mini Olympic village, as Dana Sprague says, for Brattleboro. So we want everyone to get there.
Is Willie Graves going to be competing?
Willie Graves will be jumping, yes.
And Spencer, yeah, good.
We have
Brattleboro.
snow. For any of you that might have been jump recently, there's lots of snow.
There you go.
And we'll continue to make snow, so there's no issue there.
And there's a really great display in Zephyr's window for people to look at the history of the jump. They really, I think Dana did the display, but it really is something to look at. So if you're downtown, stop there and look at it. A lot of historical data about the ski jump. So encouraging people to go out and support Harris Hill. It's really a great day of entertainment, and you see some quality jumping. We've really had some good jumpers. We've had a couple of boys who've made the Olympic team jumping at Harris Hill in the last few years, so kudos to the Harris Hill and the committee. Thank you for the fine work that you do. It's much appreciated.
It was a cow.
Dora?
Well, I just wanted to add that if you're a fan of Winter Olympics, this is probably the closest most of us will ever get to be able to see an Olympic sport up close, and it's a lot of fun to be right underneath, hearing the whoosh, or at the front seeing the actual, seeing the whole jump. It's a lot of fun. Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have one adjustment to the agenda.
Actually, can we have two adjustments to the
Two-
agenda?
two?
One would be a civil matter, and the second would be the setting of the informational town meeting.
Yep, okay.
We just need to get the room locked down. Not this room, we're fine.
Okay. All right, I'll accept a motion. Is there anyone else
Yeah.
for public participation? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to go into liquor commissioners.
Dick, I have a problem with that. I just saw the Vermont equivalent of a pink elephant. I'm not sure I'm qualified to.
I also moved to go into liquor commissioners.
There you go. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. We are liquor commissioners.
First is both items under the liquor commissioners are special event permits for the serving of liquor at the Harris Hill event. The first is the Saxton River Distillery. Christian Stromberg was to be present. He actually ended up, he's not, yeah. He ended up with a meeting out of town. Is somebody here for him? I don't think so, okay. He ended up with a meeting out of town and didn't think he'd get back in time, and obviously he has not. Some board members may recall last year, Saxon's Rivers Distillery tried to get, they were one of the local entities that we were going to try to get a special permit last year for the Harris Hill. They ran into some complications with regard to the serving or the catering. That has been resolved this year, and so this would be their first year at the event. And Chief Ryn is here. Chief, do you want to talk at all about the issues at the event, or just in general?
In general, it works out fine. They got it all roped off. There's seating that's available. We had no issues with it last year, so we anticipate none this year.
Thank you.
Very good. I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve a special event permit for Saxon's River Distillery LLC, 485 West River Road, to sell their product at the Harris Hill Ski Jump on February 18 and 19, 2012, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Further discussion? Yes.
Well, I just want to comment that I've been volunteering, at least at the McNeil's thing, the last couple of years, and they're pretty strict about about following the rules. As Catherine will attest to.
Dora carded my partner. Turned 60 last year.
So it's, it's a pretty good, it's a lot of fun, and haven't seen any problems happen with it.
Okay.
You almost got
I
decked.
know.
All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Next one.
Next, Ray McNeil is here for the same special event permit, McNeil's Brewery. Ray, if you have anything you'd like to say? There you go. That's
There
good
you go.
enough.
And sure,
Yes.
sure you can. Free advertising, so.
Yeah, there was an issue last year that Sergeant Wren, I guess, doesn't know about. There were the problems at the ski jump were coming from people not being served by us, but people that were bringing their own booze into the event, and there were a couple of scenes for which we did call the police. You didn't know about that?
That has nothing to do with the way you were serving.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with us. These are people that brought their own liquor to the event. It's kind of a shame that, well, whatever. I don't know what anybody can do about that. There's this same thing, you know, a large portion of the money is going to the ski jump. We're not really going to make a lot of money off of this. The only difference is this year I am wearing two hats. We're coming hopefully as the brewery and as the bar is kind of had to twist my arm, but there's a California brewery is making a donation to the United States, I guess, Ski Jump Association or the Olympic skiing team or whatever, and we're going to be pouring their beer. I know this may grate on everyone's nerves. Yes, there's a California brewery involved. But they came with their checkbook, and they're making a donation on behalf of the ski jump. So the ski jump was required to give money. So that's the only difference this year. We're operating two different licenses, pouring McNeil's beer and pouring beer from this California brewery.
Very good. A motion, please.
I move to approve a special event permit for McNeil's Brewery, 90 Elliott Street, to sell their product at the Harris Hill Ski Jump on February 18 and 19, 2012, for the hours of 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. I'll accept a motion to, oops, excuse me.
No, for me. Did the 20 days go by yet for the for it to go into law that we can change our
February
liquor?
11.
Right, yeah, no, it hasn't, no.
Oh. Hasn't been 20 days yet? Okay.
20 days from
I see.
publication. So
Oh, okay.
he's asking
Business
when
days.
the
Okay.
ordinance changes are.
So for next meeting.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
I move to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
I'll accept all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. I'll accept a motion to go into water and sewer commissioners.
Move to go into water and sewer commission.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Steve Barrett, Rick Ethier, Gene Forbes, and Mike Schramm are here to talk about the wastewater treatment plant facility upgrade project. In the board packet, you received the monthly summary memo, but also some proposed project change summaries. And with that, we'll kick it over to the folks at the table.
And please introduce yourself.
I'm Gene Forbes, Public Planner. I'm Mike Schreiner, Public Planner. Rick Ethier, Public Works. Steve Barrett, Public Works.
Thank you.
And Gene will outline the change orders.
Yeah, we have a memo in your packet that generally describes three things we're here for tonight, 3 points of information. The first, I just want to clarify, this is a little out of sequence for a typical monthly report. You will be seeing our monthly report at your next meeting, but we want to bring some changes that we are looking for approval from you tonight, if you agree, to the project. Reminder that Steve has been limited to a $5,000 change he can accept or reject at his own discretion, and then anything either plus or minus above that, we want to bring to your approval. And because of the timing and sequencing of work, we're anxious to get this, so that's why we're here one meeting early. But we will do a follow-up summary report, typical of our standard report for the next meeting. What you see in front of you are some changes that exceeded the $5,000. The first is for a credit relating to painting or coatings on the existing secondary clarifiers. When these were taken down, we took a look at the condition of the existing structure. It had only been painted to the top 4 feet. The concrete's in pretty good shape, and so We talked to the contractor about deleting the painting because, number one, the concrete's held up very well with the waste characteristics that you have. And number two, anytime you have an existing tank, it's difficult to get a good seal on that. That credit is $44,820 reduction in price. Similarly, we looked at the primary clarifiers and are recommending the elimination of the coatings there. That credit is $48,100. In the other direction, the digester cover coatings that we have, this is a steel coating that we did call for a coating on it. It's a good coating, but we, talking to the manufacturer, found that there's a better product that should serve that corrosive environment better. It's an area of very significant concern. You have had your existing covers degrade to the point where they're unsafe right now. So as we put in new covers, we're looking to get the best coatings possible for that. And we're looking for a credit addition, a cost addition of $14,751. The fourth item, digester sludge storage tank. We have a mixer in there that mixes several 100,000 gallons of sludge, and the review with the mixing manufacturer and our engineering staff concluded that we really need to have a couple of baffles installed that will help avoid vortexing of this mixing action. We are recommending an adder to this project. It was not included in the scope of work. This is a little unique in that we're looking for a not-to-exceed limit of $26,476. This is the upper limit. We are looking to get a lower price that just hasn't been finalized with a more local supplier for the fabrication of the materials. So we're hopeful that this can drop a couple $1,000, but right now this is the best price we have a firm number on. So we're still working on that. But this is a critical time issue, and we'd like the approval for the full amount if we cannot get this lower price through the local manufacturer. And finally, there's a flash mixer bypass that your previous operator was a strong advocate for. Talking with your existing operations staff and looking at the significant cost involved in this bypass, we questioned the need and whether it was really cost effective to do this. It does provide some ease of operation for a bypass that's extremely rarely needed, and they have other mechanisms to do that, which they have in the past. So we're recommending accepting of a credit of some $27,382 to eliminate that work. These changes are combined with other changes that Steve has been addressing. These are listed. I won't go through them all, but all less than $5,000. Bring all of our changes together that we are looking at a net credit of $62,726 that we recommend approval for. One thing I point out about these changes is that these changes combine into a change order that we will be processing in the near future. And so just the wording on the recommended motion here, the requested motion, should probably be tweaked a little bit. It's to sign the corresponding change order. This is not the change order we're bringing to you today. This is approval of these changes, which will be incorporated into a change order that we'd like you to see at your next meeting for signature.
Can I make a comment? These changes summarized in this memo, along with the other changes we brought to you a few weeks ago, would be combined in the next change order number 4.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just the wording there.
Okay, so if that would be if the requested action would be to say to approve the project changes totaling the $79,075 and to authorize the town manager to sign corresponding change order number 4, or?
Well, there will be a change order number 4. We don't have that all together for you, but that'll be at your next meeting.
So you want the board to approve the change order as well?
You approve the changes now. I'm not sure the board, I guess it's up to you, but you will have a change order that is just the formal execution of these changes.
Right, and what we've been trying to do is so that they don't come back to the board a second time, is to have the board just authorize me to authorize or to sign, authorize me to sign the corresponding change order.
That was
So
it.
should we just take off that in the total sum of?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's perfect.
Great.
So the motion wants to approve the project changes totaling 79,075, and to authorize the town manager to sign corresponding change orders.
That sounded like a nice motion.
Sounds good?
Steve Barrett has already approved the other change orders, the other changes, under his authorization. That's
Why don't you
that's
say
why it's
so?
79,000.
That's right.
So moved.
Discussion?
I'd just like to point out that the board's changes are all in the positive, Steve's are in the negative.
Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
Just trying to get points for the volleyball game coming up.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve the project change totaling 79,075, and to authorize the town manager to sign corresponding change orders. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Christopher,
I just had
question?
a question. What is a flash mixer bypass?
The treated wastewater that goes through your biological process has one last step, and that's disinfection. It's achieved by adding sodium hypochlorite, bleach. And to get effective action of that bleach, to get that chlorine to be most effective and minimize the use, there's a mixer that is rapidly injecting and mixing the chlorine with the effluent from the secondary clarifier. And that piping that comes from the secondary clarifier goes through this mixing chamber. There is no bypass of that mixing chamber. And so if the operator needs to work on the mixer, he can pull it out. But if he ever has to work in that structure, he has to either bypass it or work around by having various things like the drain tank and have some buffer so there's no flow going through it. So we have designed a bypass to the structure, some valves and piping that ran the flow around.
Okay, so
it's good.
So
The mixer is a necessary, very appropriate
Different metrics.
thing for you, yes.
okay,
That's
so
right.
there's no chance then that any of these changes are going to interfere with the consistent placement of Class A water back into the Connecticut River.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
great. I'm happy.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. All right, next issue.
Yes, the Spring Tree Pump Station, one of the most significant pump station you have, the large pump station down there in the Marina Restaurant, has been slated for upgrade. It has been part of the original bond vote. It's part of this project. There are budgets set up for this work. We have gone along this approach where this pump station would be upgraded along with the Black Mountain Pump Station, a smaller pump station that we have been studying for options to eliminate, and a gravity option is being investigated. In the meantime, we have not moved this project forward, and we think it's in the best interest of the town to do so. We'd like to bid the Spring Tree Pump Station, get it out to bid, get it under construction in this fiscal year, in this construction season, 2012. So we're looking for approval today for the engineering associated with getting this project out to bid, going through the bidding process, and then bringing to you a recommendation to award once the bids are open. So this is the first step in, after design really, to move this project forward. With your approval, this will approve our engineering contract to the amount of $17,500 for there's some repackaging, so to speak, in that we have the existing design with both Black Mountain and Spring Tree together. We need to package it as a bid package for just the Spring Tree pump station and go through the advertising process. So that's what we're looking for your approval for today.
Okay, a motion here.
Move to approve amendment number 5 of the owner-engineer agreement in the amount of $17,500 for engineering work on the Spring Tree Pump Station upgrade project through project bidding.
Discussion?
Question. So I'm just a bit confused. Are you saying that we need these pump stations to continue to pump, so that we're not using a gravity-only feed
You have
system?
several pump stations throughout your system,
Mhm.
and all your flow does not get to your plant through a gravity line.
Mhm.
So the pump stations are necessary. They've been operational for years. In your studies some years before we were involved, identified improvements that were necessary. Our design work was focused on making those improvements, new pumps, new some structural improvements in the case of Springtree, and new electrical and heating, ventilating work as well. So it's upgrading existing facilities, and yes, they are vitally necessary to move the wastewater ultimately to the treatment plant.
I guess I'm just confused about the discussion about a gravity system.
Oh, the Black Mountain might be a little confusing. The Black Mountain pump station that exists lifts the wastewater up and over Route 91 in the area of Black Mountain Road as it crosses there. That lifting and bringing it up across the bridge there is an ongoing maintenance problem, and of course that pump station needs to be upgraded. We were investigating just late last year. We started this work, but we came to the conclusion that it is physically possible to eliminate the pump station instead of pumping over Route 91. Put a gravity line under Route 91 and connect to your existing sewer on the other side. This eliminates that up and over. It is an expensive fix, so to speak, but it's in the long run, our first blush at this point anyway is that it is feasible and it's cost effective in the long run because you eliminate all the operating costs in lieu of upgrading if you have that gravity line. Right now, we have just completed some survey work to confirm the elevations are what we believe they are from as-built record drawings. And we will have some further evaluations that could change direction on this, but specifically we're looking at the geotechnical issues, whether we can directionally drill or bore or jack a line at grade underneath the highway there. So we're optimistic that it can be done, and we think that if it is achievable, you'll be able to eliminate a maintenance and operational cost.
Okay, thank you.
Going either over or under the highway, doesn't that require special permitting work with the federal government?
Absolutely.
And is that going to cause, I mean, are we sure to get approvals for that, and may there be additional delay?
We already have existing right-of-ways for water main and other utilities, so it's definitely achievable.
Cool.
Permitting is an issue. We even had to get a special permit to survey across there. Yes, permitting will be something that will be part of it.
One likely it'll be sleeved too.
Yeah.
So if there ever was a break in the pipe, it would be sleeved through another pipe, so it would be replaced without
And just one other point,
damaging the interstate.
excuse me, to avoid any further delay with the Springtree pump station work, that's why we're proposing to, both these
Separate.
projects were sort of combined, as they were always thought of as to bid as one project, so not to hold up Springtree anymore, is to bid that as a standalone project.
So you're no longer going to have a pump at Black Mountain Road, is that the story?
That's the plan.
Great.
I hope we can achieve that.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would accept the motion to adjourn as Water and Sewer Commissioners.
Adjourn as water source.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? 5-0.
Okay, first up, we have the board received in their books a copy of the fiscal year 2011 financial audit. And for those of you who didn't have time, John O'Connor is going to provide the Cliff's Notes version of that.
Yay!
John's notes. Good evening, everyone. Ken's notes. Hi, John.
Good.
I'd like to begin on page 1, which is the independent auditor's report. And this report contains the auditor's opinion on the financial statements, and this is an unqualified opinion, and that's a good thing. The unqualified opinion means that the financial statements contained in this audit present the financial condition of the town fairly and accurately without any qualifications at all. Great. So that's a good thing.
Just to let, I mean, we've had qualified audits. This is one of our first, I believe last year was even qualified still, wasn't it? Partly because of the GASB 45 implementation of the GASB 45 stuff, which has now been implemented. And so that's why he's mentioning that particularly.
Right. So if we can move on then to page 3 through 6. This is management's discussion and analysis, and this is a part of the audit that I wrote, and it contains some trend analysis and some graphs regarding the various funds. So on page 4, you can see that there's a graph there showing the combined fund balances for all of our governmental funds, and it's a little over $6.5 million as of last June 30th. The general fund balance is the second graph there, and you can see that's up a little bit from 2010 to just over $1.5 million. It's about $1.6 million. Page 5, we show some graphs related to the utilities fund. We show revenues and expenses, and we show the net assets of the fund as well. Top of the page is the change in fund balance for the general fund. And in all cases, the revenues of these funds have exceeded their expenditures. And that's true also on page 6 with the parking fund. The revenues exceeded the expenditures by a small amount, but they did exceed the expenditures. I'd like to jump forward to page 9 and 10. And page 9 and 10 shows the balance sheet for all of our governmental funds. So on page 9, we show the assets of the general fund, $8 million. We show the liabilities of the general fund, $6.3 million. And we also show each of the other governmental funds, the development fund, the capital projects fund, and other governmental funds. And the development fund and the other governmental funds are made up of a variety of funds, which are shown on pages 40 through 45, if you want the detail on that. Then page 10 shows the fund balance and the breakdown in fund balance. And we're using the new categories from the new government accounting standard. And so you can see that we had $277,000 of non-spendable fund balance. And that's things like inventory, prepayments. You can't spend those. We had $430,000 of committed fund balance that was committed for the fire truck and for the OPEB liability. And you can see the unassigned fund balance, which is the one that you should be most concerned about, because that's the money that is available to be used for future expenditures. And that was at $964,000. It's about 7% of our expenditures in the general fund. And most auditors, and I know the bond bank, would suggest that a municipality have a fund balance that's between 5 and 10% of their expenditures. So we're right there in the middle at 7%, which is good. Any other questions on any of these fund balances? Okay, then we'll move on to page 12 and 13. Okay, and page 12 shows the revenues and expenditures of each of those governmental funds. And you can see that for the general fund, for example, we had almost $14 million in revenues last year, and we had approximately $13 million in expenditures prior to transfers to other funds. If you turn the page, you can see that we had $702,000 of net transfers out of the general fund and into other funds. It's primarily the capital fund that money went to. And that we ended the year with a surplus in the general fund of $317,000. So financially, it was a good year for us. And you can see the fund balance as of June 30, 2011 is at $1,671,000, which we talked about in the graph when we went over the management discussion and analysis. So moving on to pages 15 and 16. So this is the general fund actual to budget comparison. And you can see that most of the variances in those expense categories are positive variances. And there's one large variance under the town manager's revenue account, $359,000. And that's we had budgeted for some donations for the West River Park and the skateboard park. And those donations were actually accounted for in the capital fund, not in the general fund. So that's why we had a big variance there. And if we turn the page, we continue on with the expenses. And again, you can just see many favorable variances there. Total favorable variances of $517,000. We had a surplus at the very bottom of the page. $317,538 was our surplus last year. We had budgeted a $40,000 deficit, so we actually did better than budget by $357,000. And let's see, page 17. We're talking now about our proprietary funds, our utility fund and our parking fund. And under capital assets, which is toward the bottom part of the assets section, you can see that we have almost $30 million in net assets in our utility fund and almost $10 million of net assets in our parking fund. That's net of depreciation. So that's a considerable investment in both those funds. That's about it for that page. Page 18 are the revenues and expenditures. And the third line from the bottom is the change in net assets. And you can see for the utilities fund, we had a surplus in that fund of $1,103,000. And in the parking fund, we had a surplus of $16,746.
And John, would you, just so people, when they hear utilities fund that has a surplus, would you talk a little bit why there is such a large surplus there?
Yep, the surplus is beginning to accumulate a fund balance and cash so that we can ramp up the rates on a steady basis rather than when the bonds come due and we have to start paying for the bonds for this project. We would have a very large increase if we hadn't started to step up the rates at this point in time. So that's the theory behind it, and that's why that's building up.
Thank you.
Okay.
We haven't yet done the analysis to see how that relates back to our, kind of the pro forma that we put together for wastewater for the bond, but we will be doing that because we'll be doing that as we move into the budget.
So there's a lot of other materials in this audit report. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of notes and other things that you can go through. I just wanted to point out some of the highlights to you tonight. But as you go through it, if you have questions or you want me to go into more detail with you, just let me know. I just kind of wanted to give you a broad picture tonight on how things went for last fiscal year.
And I certainly would encourage any board members or anybody from town, actually, who wants to meet with John and talk to him about the audit. Are there any questions for John right now? Seeing none, thank you, John.
Just to let the public know, the audit, the financial audit is available for the office. Is it online?
It is online.
It is online, so we encourage people to look at it. If you're not a numbers person, the management discussion and analysis is, read that. I would encourage people to read that.
If you're a candidate, this is the time to.
Great.
Okay.
Next up, we have the
Thank you, John.
annual approval of the state certificate of highway mileage. Steve Barrett's here to answer any of your questions on this.
Good evening again. Steve Barrett, Director of Public Works. I have before you, the Certificate of Highway Mileage. And what this is a document that we go through to verify the number of highway miles in the town of Brattleboro. And this is used to help determine what the town will receive for funds from the state, for state aid. There's one change this year. Upon review, we noticed that there's a section of Paul's Road that was actually, it did go to the board back in 2004. There's a section of Paul's Road that was given up as part of the Delta complex. And so what we've done is we've added this as a subtraction to the total highway mileages in town. That's the only change that we have. It has a very small, virtually no effect on the financial part of the roadways.
Then I move to approve the 2012 State Certificate of Highway Mileage.
Discussion. Seeing none?
Currently, we receive approximately $225,000 a year in state assistance.
All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Chief Wren is here asking the board to accept and appropriate a public safety and operable communications grant. He will explain exactly what we will be spending the $8,995 on.
I come back to, again, we came here about a year ago for an 07 Department of Public Safety grant. Those funds ran out, so we reapplied under 2010 money. It's to replace our radio and dispatch to be a narrowband compliant. In 2013, all public safety have to go to narrowband radios, and it's the frequencies they talk on, and it's limiting that. Ours is not compliant, so we need to get it that way. So there's grant money available to do that, and we've applied for it.
The town has been able to do most, huge percent, if not all, of their moving to the narrow band through grants
Yes.
over the past 5
Number of
years.
years, all of our portable radios
Yeah.
have moved to narrowband compliant. Now
So
we're
it's
just a
been
base station.
it's been a huge expense that we've been able to meet through grants.
Motion, please.
I move to accept and appropriate a grant from the Vermont Department of Public Safety and Operable Communications, $8,995 for the purpose of purchasing a narrowband base mobile radio and power supply base repeater.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Hey, the chief just stays up here with another accept and appropriation of a donation.
C.E. Bradley Labs generously made a donation to the department to use at our discretion. What we'd like to do with those funds is to use those offset the unanticipated cost of installing the cameras that have been put up downtown. There was cost for power and to get the signal up to the PD.
Motion, please.
I would accept and appropriate a $1,500 donation from C.E. Bradley Labs with gratitude for the purpose of offsetting costs associated with installing and getting power and internet feed to the downtown cameras.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chief. Next, we have members from the Basic Committee here requesting to accept and appropriate a grant in the amount of $14,000 from the State Recreation Facilities Grant Program.
And would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Adam Hubbard from Basic. I'm Marty Vallon. And we're here just to ask you to accept a grant that was approved by the state that we're grateful for for $14,000 and to bring our total up to about $65,000 in funds raised.
Okay. And if I can have a motion?
I move to accept and appropriate a $14,000 grant from the state recreational facilities to the Recreation Department for the purpose of funding in part the design and build of a skateboard park at the Kroll lot.
Okay, discussion.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's a note on page 2 of the application, I think it's from Carol, saying, "I am not sure the Basic Committee is fully ready to apply for this grant as they do not meet all the selection criteria." So I'm wondering if that issue has been resolved, since it looks like the state's giving us the money.
Yes, it has.
Evidently,
Thank you.
that's been resolved. Yeah.
Yes, it has.
What was the issue and how was it fixed?
When this was, I can speak to that, 'cause Carol and I had some discussions with regard to it. We were concerned that they did not have enough other funding in place, that they hadn't done enough other funding at that time, and that their plans weren't solid enough to go forward for this grant application, and we were wrong.
It was a match grant, so we had to have the available funds to match it.
Dora, did you have your hand up?
No.
Okay, I'll check the board first. Yes, Mr. Wilmerding.
John Wilmerding, 3rd District, and homeowners of a property abutting the Crow Lot. I had a couple questions when I heard that this was going to be decided today. First of all, is this a planning grant, or is this a grant for construction?
Design and construction.
Design and construction. Okay. Also, I hadn't heard in the news whether the mediation had gone forward, or I did hear that it did not go forward. Is there still a pending mediation regarding the matter of the skate park?
There is. We are trying to select a date.
Okay, that's good news. The third thing I wanted to ask is, has there been any sort of independent study commissioned by the town by an arborist on the conservation of the trees on the lot?
No, there has not.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, signify...
I do have a question.
Oops,
I do have a question, I'm sorry. Do you think that these funds are restricted for building the skate park in the current location at the Kroll lot? Or if there happened to be an effort to move the skate park either within the Kroll lot or to some other location, do you think these funds would follow the skate park?
I would say that we would have to, any change in the project would have to go back to the grantor, and that would be up for their decision. I'm also not aware if there are, because I haven't actually seen any of the, with the exception of the letter, I haven't seen anything that speaks of whether there's a time limit on these. You know, most grants have to be used within a certain period of time. I don't know what that is either. So, so I'm not sure about that.
There was a time limit on the last grant application that we accepted.
Thanks.
So, all further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, next, Patrick Moreland will talk, bring the board up to speed on our progress with regard to making applications for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. This is a grant program through Vermont Emergency Management that is they're essentially FEMA funds in response to the Tropical Storm Irene damage.
Thank you, Barb. Yeah, I'm speaking to you this evening about the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program for two reasons, principally. The first is certainly to notify you of some pending grant applications from the town, but then secondly, also to confirm your support for the prioritization outlined at the bottom of the paper, which was included in your board packet. As many of you will recall, back in November, the town developed and circulated a press release informing the public that FEMA had funded Vermont Emergency Management to operate a hazard mitigation grant program, and that the public should notify the town manager's office if they identified any opportunities for mitigation. Roughly 30 inquiries were made, and with that, the town began several months' worth of exploration into the proposed mitigation projects. A number of town staff and many of the town departments took part in examining a variety of project types, including stream bank stabilization, commercial dry flood proofing, residential home acquisition, mitigation planning, and drainage improvement projects involving public infrastructure. For a variety of project-specific reasons, we found, as many towns in Vermont have found, that the hazard mitigation program was not an ideal solution for many of the problems faced by Vermonters recovering from Tropical Storm Irene, for a variety of reasons, one of which, for example, is that the duplication of benefits clause minimized the number of homes that could potentially be eligible for acquisition. What this is saying is that if a property owner had received a suitable amount of funds equivalent to the value of their home from either private insurance or from FEMA benefits, then no acquisition would be eligible. Other projects ran into problems with, such as the stream bank projects were frequently eliminated because the Agency of Natural Resources wouldn't permit the proposed alteration. As a result, at this point in time, there are 9 projects that the town would consider submitting to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. They break out into 3 categories: residential acquisitions, commercial floodproofing, and public infrastructure. Under the residential acquisitions, we've got 5 at the moment, 1 on Brookwood Drive and 4 on Glen Street. They vary considerably, in large part because of each of the property owners received a different amount of compensation from FEMA. That therefore adjusted the various scope of these projects. We have 2 commercial dry floodproofing projects still in the works on Flat Street, and the Department of Public Works developed on their own 2 different drainage improvement projects for specific sites in town infrastructure where there's routine washout. And in each of these instances, we were able to document 6 consecutive years of washout at this same location. So the idea being that a comprehensive drainage improvement project one time would eliminate this liability at this location. So what I'm asking the board to support is the prioritization of these different groupings of projects. As they are listed here, residential acquisitions are of chief priority, followed by commercial floodproofing projects, followed by public infrastructure projects.
Very good. Thank you, Patrick. And I would accept the motion.
I will move to approve the 9 grant applications presented and to prioritize the project types with residential acquisition as the highest priority, followed by commercial dry flood proofing and public infrastructure drainage improvements.
Discussion.
Can I say a couple things? One is just to let the board know that this, as I said in the memo, HMGP grants are 75-25% match, or 75% grant, 25% match split. The 25% with regard to the public infrastructure would be through in-kind. That would be the work that our own folks would do on that. The other, the commercial and the residential, those would be up to, so for the flood proofing, that might be up to the individual commercial property owners, and for the acquisition, that would be for the resident. However, with that said, there is a possibility that we will be able to make additional grant applications through special funds through the Community Development Block Grant program to try to recoup that 25%. That is supposedly that will be an allowable use of the CDBG money coming, the special CDBG appropriation that's coming to the state of Vermont. So while at this point there is no money, that the town is not presenting any options of matching the 25% with cash, it may be that we may be coming forward later to the board with the CDBG application. One of the things I'd like to, again, I say in the memo, I'd just like to say for the citizens, is that there have been a number of programs and funding sources that have come into play since Tropical Storm Irene. And what we are finding is that they all come with their own set of requirements and rules and regulations, and that when the idea of the hazard mitigation grant program first came, it was seen by many people as the the source of funding to assist with a lot of future flood mitigation work, and it just doesn't really fit a lot of projects. The HMGP is still based on your base flood elevation, and that's, so it's basically, the example given of the road that washed out 6 times in the last, how many years, that's an example of what this mitigation money is good for, and that's what makes it hard to kind of fit, because our flooding doesn't happen every year. This was a different type of flood event. The CDBG funding that was announced, the $21 million, again, that was announced incorrectly. Initially, the county of Wyndham was one of the 2 counties that was going to get 80% of the $21 million, and that was not the case. It is not the case. It was actually Washington and Windsor. So we were with the other folks. There are the folks in the state government are trying to see if they can change that and make Wyndham County as well as Rutland County eligible for additional CDBG funding as well. We do not know what the priorities for CDBG will be. There are a lot more questions with that money at this point. We had a discussion today on this with someone from the state, and so we don't know. We do anticipate, and we are working towards some planning grants with that CDBG funding, but they don't anticipate being ready to even take applications before June. But we continue to work on different planning ideas. The next source that we anticipate coming is EDA money, and we don't know any amounts, we don't know any priorities or anything with that.
What's that, EDA money?
Yeah, economic development.
Oh, thank you.
And so we are somewhat we're not sure. So it continues to be kind of a puzzle that keeps getting kind of pieced together as we go along, and so letting people know that we're continuing to work on this. We're continuing to stay in touch with the state agencies. Patrick and the other folks, particularly Public Works, have done a good job of kind of vetting projects and trying to come up with projects that fit. But it really is just it is a disappointment to have only 9 applications at this point. But again, if we can get these 9 funded, if they actually make it through to the actual final application project, we've brought an additional $270,000 into the town.
Very good. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in...
Howard's got a question.
Oops, excuse me, Howard.
Just a point of clarification, Pat, they're still applying for all these 9?
Yes, yeah.
And any idea, I know FEMA moves pretty slowly, is this still years away possibly, or do you think it'll be?
No, I have heard that we would likely receive at least notification this fiscal year.
Just to clarify, this is actually operated through Vermont Emergency Management, so it's Vermont Emergency Management who's doing first review.
Is it federal money though?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I wanted to go back to something from the audited financials.
Okay.
Since John's still here, and since Ken was so happy to see no questions, I have one. I think that I saw in the warning for town meeting
Yes.
that there's a contribution for the other post-employment benefits. Again, did I see that correctly
No,
or
you
not?
did not.
So there's no money being allocated for that this year?
No.
And is that based upon the fact that the statement actually says that we don't have to put money away for that potential liability? We just have to note that it exists?
We have to note that it exists. We have to identify the unfunded portion of that liability. We present the balance sheet for the general fund, 2 different accounting bases. One is full accrual, and if you look at the balance sheet on that basis, It's on page 7. You will see that liability listed there, down toward the bottom of the page. Other post-employment benefits, $775,378. So when we present the balance sheet on a full accrual basis, it's showing up on that balance sheet.
Part of the reason there was I made a recommendation to the board, one of the budget meetings, not to fund the OPEB at this point, because it does appear as though there is going to be some type of movement at the state level on health insurance. And we do have in our contracts, and again, these only would impact those police and firefighters who retire with 20 years service from the day they retire, either at age 50 or 55, until they reach age 65. So it's a limited liability. But we have in the contract that if there is if they are eligible for other state or federal health programs, then they are half of our insurance. At this point, to put the money, the other issue that we have is it's been put in a reserve fund for a specific purpose, and it's harder to get that money out if you don't need it for that purpose. And so we may want to look, if the board in the future wants to contribute to the OPEB, we may actually want to review what kind of reserve fund we're putting it in.
Right. But it is my understanding that we pay at present whatever obligations we have for other post-employment benefits as part of our benefits payments as reflected in the annual budget.
Yes.
And then it says here in the report, it's not required that the town actually pay the annual required contribution each year.
No.
But it does not need to be calculated, but it does need to be calculated and reported. So that's what we're doing, but we're not putting money aside to deal with it.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
Cool.
At this point,
Thanks.
I believe there's four people on the health insurance at this point, on the post-retirement.
Sorry to go back to that item.
No, fine. Next item is the adoptions of the grant manual addendum.
And I will ask John to speak to this.
Thanks, Barb. As you know, the town has several loans that have been funded from the Vermont Community Development Program that are deferred, some 25 years, 30 years, so there's no payments coming in on these loans for a very long time. And the auditors in last year's management letter recommended that we periodically review these loans to make sure that the grantees are in fact complying with all the requirements of the loans during this lengthy period of time that they're not making any payments. So this addendum that we've drawn up is simply to formalize that our what we're going to do relative to those deferred loans and take that audit wing off the table, close that audit.
Okay, could I have a motion, please?
Move to approve the grants manual addendum as presented, implementing a periodic review of deferred loans.
Discussion.
Again, just real quick, just to say, because I forgot to say it during the financial audit, I apologize. You got the financial audit, you have not, because we have not received yet the findings, any findings that may be, that's a separate publication that we anticipate getting within the next week or two, I would assume.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't change it from unqualified.
No.
No, the findings aren't significant then, right?
Well, it's...
No, that's a different, qualified or not qualified has more to do with whether we've met all the GASB requirements.
That's right.
Generally, the government standards and accounting board. Whereas the findings would be that, operational issues or internal control issues are their main concerns. Each year we've been getting a bit better on that, and the only reason I remembered to bring it up is because this, as John said, this was an old finding that we are now rectifying.
Yep.
There you go.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Next, the board is asked to appoint Jane Southworth to the Brooks Memorial Library trustees, and that would fill a vacancy that would then, Jane is then actually being recommended to representative town meeting as a permanent trustee. So this is an appointment until March 24th, 2012.
I move to appoint the Honorable Jane Southworth to the Brooks Memorial Library trustee to fill the vacancy until March 24th, 2012.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and then we have committee vacancies.
There are, I don't know, 4 vacancies. Scott McCarty has resigned from the Ag Advisory Board in the West River Park, and David Longsmith and Josh Steele have resigned from the Basic Committee. And so we would ask that you seek
Applicants?
Thank you, for to fill those seats.
Okay, and,
I have a question.
yes.
It's my recollection that, at least basic, we just basically appointed all of the people who were on that committee to begin with, and there was never any number assigned to that. So the question would be, are there openings or are there not openings? Because I'm not sure we basically just took all of those people and appointed them
Right.
as the committee, but
Yeah.
we
But it
didn't
went to
say
the
it was a
No.
committee of 5 or a committee of 7.
I
Well, it
So
might-
thought it
it
was.
might- I
I
think
thought
it-
it said at a committee of,
Whatever the number was, rather than the norm has been 7. I
because
think
that was an awfully big committee to
Right.
begin with, and
And
my
the other-
my
the oth-
feeling would be to amend that and not necessarily open
The other
it up.
the other issue there with the basic committee would be, is that there were several people who were not Brattleboro residents, but who had put considerable time into the project. For these vacancies here, I would recommend that they be Brattleboro residents.
if the board would like, you can hold off on announcing the
Yeah.
vacancies, and we can bring it back next with the actual number and with the motion that was
Yeah.
made.
Okay, why don't we do
I would
that?
like that.
Like that,
Okay.
okay? If Dora's happy on that.
But we have vacancies for the West River Park and the Ag Advisory Committee, and we'll take applications. Today is the 7th. I guess I would take applications.
The other, just to point out, I mean,
We're in
I'm
kind
not
of a
sure
precarious
what's
spot here.
necessary. Yeah, you're coming up
Because we're
on
coming,
elections, but you're also, I mean, you can wait. We will be making announcements for the committees in
Well,
May.
We have a
I
lot
mean,
more openings
it's up
than
to you.
this.
Huh?
Because we have a lot more openings than this, don't we?
Yeah, but you try to fill them, I mean, if this was in April, we wouldn't fill it until the end of the term, but this is February. The difficult thing here is that, here we are at the 7th. We're gonna meet on the 21st, that's really a short window. And then you have the election, and we don't have our first regularly scheduled board meeting until the 20th of March after the 21st. So we do have a board meeting. There would be a board meeting on the 7th. That's a organizational meeting. Usually we don't do any business there. So we'll take, I guess we would take applications up until the 9th of March.
Okay.
That's certainly more than ample time, and who's ever here will act on it on the 20th.
Okay.
Setting a informational meeting.
I would ask the board to set an informational meeting for March 14th. The Academy School is available that night. That is a week and a half, I believe, before representative town meeting, which is on the 24th, and we have been trying to have the informational meetings on that.
A little bit more information. The start time of the informational meeting would be 7 o'clock. The start of the caucuses, the individual caucuses, would be at 6:30.
Currently, there are vacancies in District 2 and District 3.
Three.
Not District 1?
Not
No.
District
District 1 is all set.
Build up?
Filled up. So,
Yeah.
we are set with that. And
Okay. And then the next would then be a civil matter, if you want to.
I have a motion. Move to ratify the settlement reached by the VLCT with Steve Rowell with the town of Brattleboro's contribution to be $500 deductible under the coverage document.
discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Nope. And then you have your correspondence, and then the meetings are, is that it? I guess
That's
we're
it.
moving on. February 8th, 7:30 a.m., that's tomorrow. Transportation Committee. Friday, February 10th at 10 a.m., the ADA Advisory Committee will be meeting in the Marlboro College Graduate Center, the VCIL Conference Room. And Monday, February 13th at 5 p.m. in the Hannah Cosman is the Energy Committee. 6 p.m. is the Planning Commission in the Select Board Meeting Room. And 6 p.m. at the Gibson Aikens is the Rec and Parks Board. On February 14th at 4:30 p.m. is the Finance Committee. And also in the Hannah Cosman, and the Wastewater Treatment Plant Oversight Committee will be meeting at 4:30 in the Select Board Meeting Room. 7 p.m. is the Tree Advisory Committee in the Hannah Cosman, and February 14th is also BUHS meeting. February 15th at 7 p.m. is the WTSA Select Board Candidates Forum right here in the Select Board Meeting Room. On February 16th is the League of Women Voters and the BCTV Candidate Forum at 5:30 p.m. And at 6 p.m. is the Skate Park Committee in the Hannah Cosman. On Monday, February 20th, town offices will be closed for President's Day, but we will reopen on the 21st, and at 4 p.m. the Town Arts Committee will meet in the Hannah Cosman. At 5:15 the CPCC will meet, and at 6:15 this Select Board will meet for its final meeting of February right here in the Select Board meeting room.
I have a question. So do events where the three of you who are running are going to be present, do those all have to be warned?
No.
There you go. See? We just learned something.
It's because we're not discussing policy.
I guess not.
Okay.
I hope we're discussing policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are discussing
Not
policy,
among
but you're not
ourselves,
taking
but-
the
That's right.
lead.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, BCTV. Thank you, press.
Special event permits don't have anything to say.
Get your pictures.
Honestly, going through,
So there's only one that needs all of us, the rest of them are for you and me.
I don't know, that's pretty arcane stuff. Just because, what do you choose?
What's the 10 million? Why you in there? What do you choose?